This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is 8:45 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Anjana Dodamgoda and read by Tilani Pires. The headlines. The President to visit Cuba to address the G77 plus China Leaders Summit. Sri Lanka's education policies should remain free from political influence, the President. The Minister of Education says no decision to postpone the A-level exam. The State Minister Ashoka Priyanth says immediate recruitment of 4,000 Grama Niladhari officers to fill existing vacancies. The Inland Revenue Amendment Bill passed in Parliament with a majority. Over 4,500 Sri Lankans leave for employment in South Korea this year. And on international news, the death toll rises to 4 in Greece after floods. More than 800 rescued. And on sports news, Asia Cup ticket prices for some Super 4 matches reduced. The President Ranil Wickremesinghe is set to depart for Cuba to address the G77 plus China Leaders Summit next week. The summit themed Current Development Challenges, Role of Science, Technology and Innovation is scheduled for September 15th and 16th, 2023 in Havana, Cuba. President Wickremesinghe's participation in the summit comes as a result of an official invitation from the Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel. Alongside the summit, there are plans for bilateral discussions between President Wickremesinghe and the Cuban President to further strengthen the cooperation between Sri Lanka and Cuba. The G77 plus China Leaders Summit represents the largest intergovernmental coalition of 134 developing nations as recognized by the United Nations. It serves as a platform for southern countries to voice and promote their shared economic interests while enhancing their collaborative negotiating capabilities. The Education Minister Susil Premajant said there is no expectations of postponing the 2023 GC Advanced Level Examination as announced by the Examinations Department. While participating in a program at the Uva National College of Education, the Minister said the A-Level examination is scheduled to be held from November 27th to December 21st. The Minister of Education said if such a postponement is done, the ordinary level and other examinations will get delayed for a long time. The examination schedules and the school timetables will again cause confusion. Minister Premajant added it is everyone's responsibility to make the necessary commitments and support them at a time when examinations and study schedules are being restored. Otherwise, the children will have to bear all the losses, he said. The Minister of State for Home Affairs, Ashoka Priyanth, said swift action will be taken to fill nearly 4,000 vacant Grama Niladhari positions. Additionally, he noted the formation of a committee led by Mr. Anura Dissanayake, the Prime Minister's Secretary, to address this issue. Furthermore, the State Minister, Ashoka Priyanth, shared that the EGN program aimed at digitizing all 14,022 Grama Seva domains across the country is already in progress. These statements were made during a press conference at the Presidential Media Centre today under the theme Collective Path to a Stable Country. The Minister of State for Home Affairs, Ashoka Priyanth, further said balancing the public service is essential, taking into account various factors, including the country's economic situation. This should be carried out without regard to one's position, but it's crucial to recognize that there are job openings in specific districts, regions and organizations. Presently, the government has adopted a policy of suspending recruitment. However, there are a considerable number of vacancies for Grama Niladhari officers. The absence of Grama Niladhari officers who operate at the village level poses challenges in moving forward. Therefore, our current efforts are focused on filling the 4,000 vacant Grama Niladhari positions. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Migration of Sri Lankans to South Korea for employment is on the rise, and the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment has been able to send 4,556 Sri Lankans to work in South Korea during the first 8 months of this year, according to the Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment, Manusha Nanakkara. Among them are 3,565 workers who left for work in South Korea for the first time and 991 re-entry workers who went to work at the same place after completing the prescribed service period. Out of the total 3,774 people who left for employment in the manufacturing sector, 639 people for the fishing sector, 140 people for the construction sector, and 3 for the agriculture sector. This group consists of 4,462 male employees and 94 female employees. 2 days ago, 170 Sri Lankan youths left for South Korea on Sri Lankan Airlines UL 470 flight. Meanwhile, in a significant step towards ensuring the safety and well-being of the Sri Lankan migrant workers and enhancing economic prosperity, State Minister for Foreign Employment Promotion, Mr. Jagat Pushpakumara, has announced the development of a comprehensive national foreign employment policy. The policy has been submitted for approval to the Cabinet Ministers, marking a milestone in Sri Lanka's commitment to its overseas workforce. The second reading of the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill was passed by a majority of 45 votes in Parliament short while ago. Accordingly, the legislation received 103 votes in favour and 58 against. On Tuesday, Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Abebadana communicated to the Supreme Court's decision on the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill. The top court had determined that the bill should be passed by a simple majority in Parliament, while maintaining that neither the bill, which was challenged in court, nor any of its provisions are inconsistent with Article 12 of any provisions of the Constitution. Last week, the Supreme Court concluded the deliberations of the petitions filed challenging the Inland Revenue Amendment Draft Bill, which was presented to the Parliament by the government. The petitions had been filed by 2 persons, including Chaturanga Singha, an activist of the National People's Power, alleging that if passed in Parliament, the proposed bill will revise a number of levies and will also further empower the Inland Revenue Department and the primary agent for collecting taxes and dealing with issues arising with taxes on behalf of the government. That ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The President Ranil Wickremesinghe has stressed that Sri Lanka's education policies should remain free from political influence and not be subject to frequent changes based on preferences of individual ministers. The President made these remarks while participating in the 150th anniversary celebration of the Siddhartha Central College in Eppavala. Meanwhile, around 140 student representatives visited Presidential Secretariat and engaged in a friendly discussion. During the interaction, the President shared plans to establish 10 new universities in the country and facilitate higher education opportunities in England and America through student loans. Students will have the freedom to choose their desired subjects, and educational reforms, including new technology colleges, are under consideration. President Ranil Wickremesinghe encouraged the students to actively participate in college student parliament activities and even invited them to hold meetings in the main auditorium of the Presidential Secretariat, where Sri Lanka's first Parliament convened. He also acknowledged the presence of students from the previous group, expressing gratitude for the opportunities provided by his administration. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And on Watch Light tonight, the Environment Ministry Secretary Dr. Anil Jayasinghe said it has been proven that particulate matter 2.5 in the air enters the human body by diffusion into the blood, causing an inflammatory response all over the body and thickening the blood vessels. He said that the relationship between long-term exposure to PM 2.5 and blood lipids have been investigated into. The World Health Organization has calculated that 7 million people in the world die annually due to air pollution. According to the WHO report, hermatological abnormalities might occur because of these toxic particles, but only a few studies on this issue have been reported. That came to you in Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
It's the power to live life your way. The power to be a trendsetter. Power to you with digital banking from Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
Moving on with world news and the headlines first. The death toll rises to 4 in Greece after floods. More than 800 rescued. Japan launches rocket-carrying moon lander after 3 days. Thousands of Canada wildfire evacuees allowed to go home. The death toll from floods in central Greece has risen to 4 after severe rainstorms turned streets into raging torrents, hurled cars into the sea and washed away roads and bridges. Vasilis Kikilias, Greece's Minister for the Climate Crisis and Civil Protection, said on Thursday that more than 885 people had been rescued so far and 6 were reported missing. Flooding triggered by severe rainstorms also hit neighboring Bulgaria and Turkey, killing a total of 15 people in the 3 countries. Japan launched its lunar exploration spacecraft on Thursday aboard a homegrown HIA rocket, clearing a path to become the world's 5th country to land on the moon early next year. Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency said the rocket took off from Tanegashima Space Center in southern Japan as planned and successfully released the smart lander for investigating the moon. Unfavorable weather led to the 3 postponements in a week last month. Dubbed the moon sniper, Japan aims to land slim within 100 meters of its target site on the lunar surface. The $100 million mission is expected to reach the moon by February. The launch comes 2 weeks after India became the 4th nation to successfully land there. After a 3-week evacuation order, thousands of residents in Canada's Northwest Territories are going home. More than 20,000 people were ordered to leave Yellowknife in mid-August as a fire burned 15 kilometers away from the city's limits. The evacuation order was lifted early on Wednesday afternoon as firefighters have been successful in keeping the flames at bay. The news was met with relief by many who are eager to return. Commercial flights into the city have resumed and a checkpoint on the highway outside the city has been lifted. A sign that reads "Welcome Home" was put up on the Yellowknife Highway near Bechotko, a First Nations community, to greet evacuees driving in today. Back to the world news headlines. The death toll rises to 4 in Greece after floods. More than 800 rescued. Japan launches rocket-carrying moon lander after 3 days. Thousands of Canada wildfire evacuees allowed to go home. That ends World News.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
This message is for all the kids between the ages of 4 and 16 who love to draw. Commercial Bank's Arunalusittam is back once again. This time, the competition is also open to Sri Lankan kids currently living abroad. First, second and third place prizes will be awarded along with special merit and merit certificates. For more information, visit the Commercial Bank website. We have so many prizes to be won.
Development News is brought to you by
Job opportunities for well-experienced housemaids and home cooks in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait for ages 40 to 58 years. Salary 125,000 rupees. Contact 037 7500 500.
A World Bank-funded roadmap for offshore wind development in Sri Lanka expects to foster regional cooperation by pushing offshore wind energy as a larger part of the country's electricity generation mix. The report also looks to justify the large infrastructure costs associated with grid improvements and push the country to have a large decarbonization target. The report also promises that the country will be able to export energy into the Indian subcontinent. The report was discussed on August 25th at a virtual gathering of officials from the Power and Energy Ministry, Ceylon Electricity Board, World Bank, Sustainable Energy Authority and other foreign diplomats. That came to you in Development News.
Job opportunities for women from Deshakti Lanka in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Oman. Housemaids and home cooks in Saudi Arabia, ages 40 to 58 years. Arabic speaking and well experienced home cooks. Salary 125,000 rupees. Interviews are now on with foreign agents. You can travel overseas free of charge now. Branches Colombo, Kurunegala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 0377 500 500. Deshakti Lanka Foreign Employment Agency.
Sports. Tickets for lower blocks C and D of the RPICS Colombo for the Super 4 stage of the Asia Cup will be reduced to 1,000 rupees per ticket. Tickets for lower blocks C and D of the RPICS Colombo for the Super 4 stage of the Asia Cup will be reduced to 1,000 rupees per ticket. The reduction will be applicable for the games to be played on September 9th, 12th, 14th and the 15th. However, for the game between Pakistan and India on September 10th and the finals of the tournament, the ticket prices for the respective blocks will remain at the originally set prices. Tickets can be purchased via pcb.bookme.pk. That's pcb.bookme.pk. Also through the SLC count established at the Vidya Mavata Colombo. That came to you in sports news.
Go ekaktiana youth ekat life eke change ekat niyameta set wenna as wahagena danga pugina habe karanna youth ekat niyameta set wenna friendship එක menna.
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Minister of Agriculture's Agriculture Sector Modernization Project partnered with the European Union-funded BESPA Food project implemented by the United Nations Development Organization to enable rural farmer community organizations to access knowledge products and technical support to enhance the agro-food sector value chain. That came to you in Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekaktiana youth ekat life eke change ekat niyameta set wenna as wahagena danga pugina habe karanna youth ekat niyameta set wenna friendship එක menna.
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And on economic news, the Sri Lankan rupee has depreciated against the US dollar. According to the exchange rates issued by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, today, the buying rate of the US dollar has increased to 316 rupees and 21 cents, while the selling rate is 328 rupees and 6 cents. The indicative exchange rate announced by the Central Bank is 321 rupees and 99 cents, while it was as high as 362 rupees and 66 cents on the 24th of February. That ends economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Fairly heavy showers above 50 millimeters are likely at some places in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in the Puttalam, Galle and Mathura districts. Several spells of showers may occur in the Mannar and Hambantota districts and in the north central province. Fairly strong winds about 40 to 45 kilometers per hour can be expected at times in the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in Trincomalee and Hambantota districts. That was the weather report. And now to in this news broadcast, the main points once again. The President to visit Cuba to address the G77 plus China Leaders Summit. Sri Lanka's education policies should remain free from political influence. The President. The Minister of Education says no decision to postpone the A-level exam. The State Minister Ashoka Priyanth says immediate recruitment of 4,000 Grama Niladhari officers to fill existing vacancies. The Inland Revenue Amendment Bill passed in Parliament with a majority. Over 4,500 Sri Lankans leave for employment in South Korea this year. And on international news, the death toll rises to 4 in Greece after floods. More than 800 rescued. And on sports news, Asia Cup, ticket prices for some Super 4 matches reduced. That ends this news broadcast.